Okay, second semester math analysis. Our first chapter, the only essential skill we have is going to be exponents. So we will be learning exponents and more exponents and more exponents. So the first three laws that I have written out, we're going to fill them in together. So if you have matching bases, so notice that x is here, that was huge, and x is on the other side also. That means the bases match. And we're trying to multiply those together. All you do is keep x, keep the base the same, and add the exponents, whatever you get when you do a plus b. If you have, again, matching bases, but they're being divided, then you keep the base, and you subtract the exponents top exponent minus bottom exponent. And we'll talk about what to do if you get a negative answer later. Third rule, if you have one base to a power and it's being raised to another power, you get x and you multiply those exponents, whatever ab multiplied together is. So let's talk about what happens if you get a negative. Say you had x to the 6th over x to the 9th. If I subtract those following this rule right here, top minus bottom, I get x to the negative 3. But just from our Algebra 1 skills, we know if we had 6 x's on top and 9 on the bottom, 6 of them would cross out, and we would get 1 over, and there'd be 3 x's left, x cubed. So that means that x to the negative 3 should really be written as 1 over x cubed. On tests, graded assignments, worksheets, we don't want to see negative exponents. We want you to flip it over and make it 1 over x cubed. Then, of course, to try to mess you up, we'll give you something like this. X to the 5th over x squared, y to the negative 7th over y to the 6th. So we can give you negative exponents on either top or bottom. So x to the 5th over x squared should be pretty easy following that rule. Subtract and you get x cubed. We should move this y to the negative 7, we don't like having negatives, to the bottom. But there's already 6 of them down there, so if I move 7 more, that's going to give me y to the 13th on the bottom. So when we go through our practice problems, if you see a negative exponent, you always want to put it on the other side of the fraction, which means if it was on the bottom, you put it on the top. If it was on the top, you put it on the bottom. So let's do some practice problems. So here's problem number 1. It's not too difficult of a problem. A smart thing to do right now would be to just pause the video, see if you get the answer right, and then press play and see if you got the same thing as me. So here's my answer. Hopefully you got the same thing. A key thing to pay attention to is that we were not talking about normal numbers when I taught you exponent rules. So I didn't teach you today what to do with 3 times 2. You already know what to do with 3 times 2. Don't forget that 3 times 2 is 6. The math on the normal numbers is still the same as it always has been. Then when you do x to the 2nd times x to the 7th, that's the first rule. You add the exponents, you get x to the 9th. Then when you do y to the 4th times y to the 9th, add the exponent, y to the 13th. So you treat normal numbers separately, x's separately, and y's separately, and do whatever it is you're supposed to do. Okay, here's problem number 2. Keep in mind that normal numbers, the coefficients, have normal rules ever since, what grade do you learn that? 4th grade or something like that? So take a second and pause it, see if you can get number 2 right, and then press play and see if you get the same answer as me. So here's my answer. Remember, 3 squared gives me 9, because we're doing 3 times 3. X to the 4th squared, that's your multiply rule, 4 times 2. And y to the 5th squared, that's your multiply rule, y to the 10th. Most common mistake is that 9 in the front. Be careful there. Okay, here's problem number 3, division. Remember, normal numbers get divided the normal way, and you want to reduce. and then follow your exponent rules, press pause, and see if you get the same answer as me. So here's my answer. I reduced the whole numbers just like I would any fraction. 12 over 8, it's reducible. 4 goes into both of those. 4 goes into this 3 times. 4 goes into this 2 times, so I got 3/2. Then the x's, I subtracted. 5 minus 3 gives me 2. Then on the y's, I subtracted 10 minus 5. I got y to the negative 5 in my head as my answer, but that negative puts it on the bottom of my fraction. Or you can just think it through logically. I had a lot more y's on the bottom, so when I cross them out one by one, my y's are still going to be on the bottom because that's where there were more to begin with. Okay, so we've done some of the more basic ones. Now it's time to get into the more serious ones. You'll notice on this problem I have a parenthesis on the top with a 4 on it, and then I have a parenthesis on the bottom with a 3 on it. So top and bottom are going to be 2 separate problems here. So first thing you're going to want to do is simplify the top, and then you're also going to want to simplify the bottom separately. We can't do anything with them together until they've both been simplified. No parentheses left on top, no parentheses left on bottom. So just distribute your to the 4th, distribute your to the 3rd on the bottom, pause it, see if you get what I get. So here's what I got just doing the first step. Parentheses, PEMDAS still applies, you have to do parentheses first. Notice that I got an 8 on the bottom. 2 cubed gives me 8. 2 times 2 times 2. Now I have no more parentheses. Now I can reduce. You know you're not done yet because you still have y's on top and bottom, and that's not simplified. You need to make sure you get only one x, only one y, with whatever exponent is correct when you're all done. So, x to the 8th on top doesn't change. There's no other x's. The 8 on the bottom doesn't change. There's no other constants. I have 12 minus 15, which is negative 3, or there's more y's on the bottom, so I know my y's are going to be on the bottom after I subtract. X to the 8th over 8y cubed. Okay, so notice on number 5, the parentheses is around the whole thing. So see the difference between number 4 and number 5. On number 5, it's my choice. I could reduce the insides, the fraction, or I could square everything and then reduce the fraction. But as soon as I see 15, and then I see that I want to square it, that doesn't seem like an easy route for me, because you don't get calculators on this part. So instead I'm going to reduce inside. So I'm going to keep parentheses squared. I'm going to do that last. Let's reduce the fraction. So for our whole numbers, 6 and 15, I know that 3 goes into both of those. So 3 goes into this twice, 3 goes into this 5 times. So my numbers are going to be 2 over 5. 9 x's on top, 7 on the bottom gives me x squared left on top. 11 y's on the bottom, 1 on the top gives me y to the 10th on the bottom. Now the numbers are smaller and easier to deal with, so I'll go ahead and square everything. The square is on the parentheses, everything is in the parentheses. 2 squared is 4, x squared squared is x to the 4th, multiplying exponents. 5 squared is 25. Y to the 10th squared multiplied gives me 20. And because I reduced it in the very beginning, I know that I'm not going to be able to reduce it anymore, and that's my answer. Okay, this will be our last example for basic exponents. Notice again, parentheses on top, parentheses on bottom, they're different, so you need to go ahead and simplify the top, simplify the bottom. So distribute your exponents, pause it, and see if you get what I get for that first step. First step, here's my answers. Then, there's a lot of things wrong with this. There's x's on top and bottom, which lets me know it's not reduced. And there's negative exponents involved, which you can't have as your final answer. So, just looking at the whole numbers 4 and 27, nothing goes into both of those. So, 4 over 27 is going to stay. X to the negative 14. As soon as I see a negative, wherever it is, I want to move all 14 of those x's to the other side of the fraction, which in this case is down. So if I'm moving 14 x's down there, and there's already 15 x's down there, that's going to give me 29 x's on the bottom. Same idea with the y to the negative 9. It's on the bottom, and it says negative, so I need to move it to the top. Since there's already 18 of them there, and I'm moving 9 more, that'll give me y to the 27th on the top. And this is my answer. So this should get you through the beginning of exponents. This should definitely get you through worksheet 1.